Do you still remember that young man from 1964?
Yeah, this is him still here. But he's just not so young anymore. But this is that same guy. He just grew a bit. So, yeah, I recognize him and have great memories. I recognize him and have great memories.
I think the Beatles as a pop group are finished. I don't think they're finished as a group of fellas who can probably get together from time to time for all sorts of activities which can be both entertaining as far as the public is concerned and lucrative as far as they're concerned. But as a pop group, I really can't see where they can go.
The Beatles are certainly at a crossroad. That's true, and the Beatles themselves know this. You see, the Beatles started off 3 or 4 years ago by being very unconventional and being ahead of their time and being something new. Now they're outrageously out of date, and the Beatles themselves are worried about this. They've been very worried about this for some time, and they just don't know what to do next. They don't want to be just another pop music group. There are plenty of those touring the country now and doing very well. They want to advance, but the question facing each of them is how.
Paul McCartney himself, I think, said he'd hate to be a 30-year-old Beatle, which gives him 4 or 5 years now. Last in terms of people who come together and make records over the next few years, I think certainly as people who come together perhaps once a year and make a film, and that's possible. As a group that goes around doing one-night stands and tours and does continuous concert work and personal appearances, I would say probably not.
So how do we get from this to this?
Sergeant Pepper taught the band to play. Today is the 20th anniversary of the release of the Beatles LP Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, a record described by some critics as the album of the century.
The Sgt. Pepper LP was simply the most original and ambitious of a whole string of hits, and it gathered its own mythology. The Paulie's Dead story, tales of rampant drug-taking as the LP was being made. Today, it's all history.
I remember thinking, I thought the Beatles were like these young men with short hair. Why have they become these old men with long hair? They were about 25. Yeah. They looked like old men to me. And I couldn't quite work it out.
Before I go, can I ask you, who writes your music?
Who writes it?
He does.
John and I
asked Bruce Raven what he thought.
What I can tell you is that there's a large British contingent in the band. In terms of the album itself, I really can't give you much more on their background, except that I feel that they are... The impression I have is that they're just simply a lot of good musicians in the band who have decided to remain anonymous. You know, unfortunately, there is no inside information. I don't even know if our vice president of A&R has the answer.
But I honestly believe that, you know, time goes on and life goes on, that there will be another biggie.
Yeah. So I'm interviewing him on his birthday, and I said, Ringo, I go, the 50th anniversary White Album is great. Your drums sound fantastic. I said, tell me about This Is Some Friendly. I said, what does that mean? He goes, well, I wrote that on the piano. He has no idea what I'm talking about. He does not know what This Is Some Friendly, and he's trying to get around it.
This is some friendly.
I am now going to assault your mind with subliminal messages.
Clues are said to be found by playing the records at different speeds or even backwards, and there is a degree of truth to it. And if you listen closely, you can hear someone saying over and over, Paul is dead.
You've got a little backwards bit.
We've got all this, like, evidence.
Perhaps one of the eeriest instances is a reversed playback of It's Johnny's Birthday, which purportedly sounds like he never wore his shoes. We all know he was dead.
He has given us a sign! He has given us a shoe! It's true, he's the sign!
Last year, we had a big thing about Paul McCartney being dead.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how much of it was planned and how much was planned by you.
It had nothing to do with me.
This Paul McCartney rumor and death, if you will. As a matter of fact, let's talk all about the symbolism that's going down in these albums and dress ourselves also to the possibility of death and what you recognize in these albums.
Well, I tell you, I'm not aware of any of them, you see. I only read about them this morning in the paper.
As Paul McCartney left this world, has he taken his last breath? We're all barbarians, son of Paul. We hate to see gold. Should we light a candle, brother Paul? Listen, St. Paul. Every jam we play, we break 2 needles. There's 3 of us, but we're not the Beatles.
The cover for Cold Turkey is, we might consider that to be symbolic if we get into it.
This is the advert we're using. Now, it's 2 skulls, which is, what are they called? X-rays that were taken of us in hospital after we had a car crash.
He blew his mind out in a car.
It sounds like it turned out nice again.
Yeah, there was all kinds of stuff. You know, we flew out of Montreal in order to avoid Ringo getting killed.
You think you know them, and then all of a sudden you find that they change. They do weird things that you didn't know about.
No, nothing's changed in the last 10 days.
What she's sifted through the last 6 years is a list of all those things McCartney set out to do. 60 items he wrote down when he was 29. He'd only had a chance to try 6 when he was killed.
What do you think the value of writing a bucket list is?
You know, not only are you writing down your intentions for your life, but you're also committing to showing the world who you are authentically. So even if you don't finish it, maybe your kids find it someday, and then they know what you cared about, and that matters.
You've got to get out of this person